India's voice to the world. I'm Prasar Bharati. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. UN Security Council to hold an emergency meeting on UAE's request to seek pause to Gaza fighting. US President calls Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu, urges to protect civilians and increase aid to Gaza. UN Chief Antonio Guterres says protection of civilians in Gaza conflict is paramount, warns Gaza growing more desperate by the hour.
I've always been consistent in my call for strict compliance of the well-established principles and the rule of international humanitarian law. The protection of civilians is paramount.
In sports, India remains unbeaten, registers sixth consecutive win by defeating England in Cricket World Cup encounter. The United Nations Security Council will hold an emergency meeting today to discuss the conflict between Israel and Hamas. The meeting is being convened on the request of UAE. The UN Security Council earlier failed in its attempt to stop the war in Gaza as its members were unable to approve either the United States resolution calling for humanitarian pauses or Russia's calling for an immediate ceasefire. The Israeli military repeated its call to Gazan people to leave the northern region immediately. Military's chief spokesperson in a televised briefing on Sunday said that its calls on Palestinians in the Gaza Strip to evacuate southward was now urgent.
Over the last 2 weeks, we have been calling on residents of the northern Gaza Strip and Gaza City to relocate southwards temporarily. Relocating southward is for their personal safety. We are today emphasizing that this is an urgent call.
The Red Crescent and doctors in Gaza say they have received warnings from Israeli military to evacuate the Al-Quds hospital in Gaza immediately. However, the staff of the hospital have said that moving the hundreds of patients currently being treated there would not be possible, as some are seriously ill.
Have the means to evacuate Al-Quds hospital. We have over 400 patients who are inside the hospital. Many of them are in the intensive care unit. Evacuating them means killing them. That's why we refuse the evacuation order. We call on the international community to intervene immediately to stop a humanitarian catastrophe that is unfolding.
And clouds of smoke covered the sky over Gaza as the Israeli army intensified their operation against Hamas. Israel expanding ground operations in Gaza, and its fighter jets have struck hundreds more Hamas targets in what Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has called the second phase of a 3-week-old war. Telephone and internet communications were partially restored in Gaza after a more than day-long blackout that had badly impacted rescue operations. Meanwhile, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has reiterated his call for immediate release of hostages in Gaza and a humanitarian ceasefire.
The world is witnessing a humanitarian catastrophe taking place before our eyes. More than 2 million people with nowhere safe to go are being denied the essentials for life: food, water, shelter, and medical care, while being subjected to relentless bombardments. I urge all those with responsibility to step back from the brink. And I reiterate my appeal for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire, the unconditional release of all hostages, and the delivery of a sustained humanitarian relief at a scale that meets the needs of the people of Gaza. We must join forces to end this nightmare for the people of Gaza, Israel, and all those affected around the world, including here in Nepal.
The families of Israeli hostages held by Hamas protested outside the Israeli president's house in Jerusalem. A group lobbying for the families of Israeli hostages held by Hamas insisted that the safety of their loved ones should be a priority for the Israeli government. Relatives of the hostages formed a human chain holding up flyers with information and pictures of their kidnapped loved ones. Hamas took more than 200 hostages, including children, back into Gaza during its raids. The hostages are believed to be hidden in the Gaza Strip, possibly in a warren of tunnels Hamas has built there. International Criminal Court prosecutor Karim Khan visited the Rafah crossing on the Egypt-Gaza border amid accusations that both Israel and Hamas are violating international law in the ongoing war. Impeding relief supplies to Gaza's population may constitute a crime under the International Criminal Court's jurisdiction, Karim Khan told a news conference in Egypt. Karim Khan also said that Israel must make efforts without further delay to make sure civilians receive basic food, medicine. United Nations officials have said the aid supplies are limited and do not correspond to the huge need on the ground. And as Israeli defense forces have entered Gaza and are carrying out the second phase of the on-ground operations against Hamas, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke with US President Joe Biden on Sunday. Though Netanyahu's office didn't provide much detail of the conversation, White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan on Sunday said in a TV interview on ABC Network that US believes Israel should take every means possible to distinguish between Palestinian civilians and Hamas militants in its military operation in Gaza.
War, of course, is highly unpredictable, so it's difficult to predict how it will play out. What I will say this, Israel was attacked in a brutal, vicious terrorist attack. They are taking steps to go after the terrorists who struck them. They have been doing so from the air. They're now doing so on the ground. And Hamas, this brutal terrorist organization that conducted the attack, is hiding behind the civilian population, which puts an added burden on Israel to differentiate between the terrorists and innocent civilians. But it doesn't lessen their responsibility under international humanitarian law and the laws of war to do all in their power to protect the civilian population. And that's equally true moving in on the ground as it is taking strikes from the air.
US President Joe Biden also spoke with President of Egypt on Sunday, lauding the efforts of Egypt for playing a leading role in the efforts to facilitate the delivery of humanitarian aids to affected civilians of Gaza. The two leaders reiterated their commitment to continue accelerating assistance flowing into Gaza beginning Sunday and ensuring a steady supply in the coming days. According to a press statement issued by the White House on Sunday, the two leaders also discussed the importance of protecting civilian lives, respect for international humanitarian law, and ensuring that Palestinians in Gaza are not displaced to Egypt or any other nation. Jake Sullivan, the White House National Security Advisor, has said that the burden is now on Israel to distinguish between civilians and Hamas, even as it launches its ground operations. Here are some details from a correspondent from West Bank.
Jake Sullivan said yesterday that, it is now Israel's responsibility to distinguish between the civilians and Hamas. I think what he means is that Hamas is using, innocent civilians as human shield. What Israel released of the Al-Shifa hospital, where there are a number of patients due to the shelling, there are their relatives, there are more patients coming in due to the intensified military campaign. But beneath that, Hamas has its command and control center, and it has its operational base. So there are a lot of tunnels, and those tunnels run under the city. You have buildings over them, people living in them. Yoav Gallant is very clear that the Israeli defense minister, that they will go in for a close combat. In that situation, the civilian count will go up steeply. Most parts of the world, even the staunchest of Israeli allies like the United States, leaders are telling them that the burden is on you. Now it is your responsibility to see that the innocent civilian lives are not lost or are minimized in this. The steps they would do is, one, they would increase the information warfare by not allowing videos to come out of there, cutting off their telephone lines, communication networks, internet is down there, many places are in darkness, so that messages don't pass around, videos don't pass around. Secondly, heightened diplomacy. There are diplomats all around the world are at it. At the military level, I think they would be working on specific intelligence on where the Hamas bases are, where their command control structures are, and how they can go in. I hear that they could use sponge bombs. Sponge bomb is a kind of a bomb where it's like a foam which you send inside the tunnels, and then it solidifies into something hard and hits whoever it's targeted at. They say it will be targeted at the Hamas fighters or Hamas guerrillas or Hamas terrorists. So these are the measures militarily they would take. But as I said, diplomatic measures and also the information warfare will be an integral part of that.
The Russian Republic of Dagestan's capital city was forced to close its airport on October 29th after a crowd of demonstrators supporting Palestine poured the runway. Israeli authorities have diverted all aircraft bound for Dagestan to other airports due to reports of demonstrators denouncing Israeli actions in Gaza. A large groups of protesters entering the air terminal and storming various rooms with Palestinian flags were seen in the footage. Israel has urged Russian authorities to protect Israelis and Jews in their jurisdictions following potential reprisals by pro-Palestinian protesters in Dagestan. The airport will be closed until November 6th. As the Israel-Hamas conflict ravages lives, the resident drove to the northern Israel to feed starving animals left behind by the owners fleeing to save lives. Passionate towards animals, Lily Perry feeds stray cats and dogs every day in areas where they barely get anything to eat. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz says his country is willing to invest in gas and critical minerals in Nigeria in a joint statement with Nigerian President Bola Tinubu in the capital Abuja. Scholz is in sub-Saharan nation on his third state visit regarding business and related issues of mutual interest. The death toll in Kazakhstan's coal mine fire accident rose to 45 on Sunday. The mine owned by ArcelorMittal supposedly caught fire due to methane blast. And Colombians voted on Sunday to elect new mayors, governors and regional lawmakers. The election may also serve as a referendum for the current government and could influence the 2026 presidential vote. A dog ovine contest was held in Peru to choose the best dressed canine out of many cute participants dressed as Chucky, Naruto, pirates, brides and superheroes, and so on, eager to claim the title of the best costume. The top 3 most creative costumes were decided by the Applausometer at the event, and winners went home with prizes of dog food products. Still to come on this edition of TT India Live. Horrific train collision in India's Andhra Pradesh claims at least 10 lives. Bangladesh charges opposition leader with party members with murder. Max Verstappen takes record 16th win of the season in Mexico.
turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution. This series is going to tell stories of such change makers. Watch Change Makers on DD India.
Welcome to Jaipur.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Bangladesh's main opposition leader and over 100 other top party members have been charged with the murder of a policeman killed in mass demonstrations ahead of upcoming elections. Among the arrested are the senior members of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party leadership who potentially face the death penalty if they are found guilty. Police said Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir had been detained for interrogation for Saturday's violence in which a police officer and a protester were killed and at least 26 police ambulances were torched or damaged. UN Secretary General Guterres warned of dire consequences during his visit to Kathmandu, highlighting the alarming rate at which the Nepal's glaciers are melting. The International Center for Integrated Mountain Development warns that Hindu Kush Himalaya glaciers could lose 75% of their volume by century's end, putting millions of lives at risk from flooding and water shortage.
I will visit the Himalayas to see for myself the terrible impact of the climate crisis on the glaciers. The situation is dire and it is accelerating. Nepal has lost close to a third of its ice in just over 30 years, and glaciers are melting at record rates. The impact on communities is devastating, and I will meet local people in the Himalayas to hear directly from them about how they are affected.
Helicopter surveillance helped Mexican authorities to evaluate the damage caused by Hurricane Otis while working to restore power to the southern state of Guerrero. Broken boats and smashed yachts were scattered along the coast of Acapulco, Mexico, as Hurricane Otis intensified. The death toll from the Category 5 storm has risen to 43 now, according to Guerrero governor. A front causing more heavy rain is expected to strengthen off Central America and move towards southern Mexico.
Tomorrow night, at the latest on Tuesday, there will be electricity in the houses of Acapulco. This is admirable because it is not done anywhere else in the world after a tragedy. You don't manage to re-establish the electricity supply so quickly. This will allow gas stations to start distributing fuel.
At the ongoing G7 meeting in Osaka, Japan, India is represented by Union Trade and Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal. On the sidelines of the G7 summit, Minister Goyal held bilateral meetings. He spoke with the French Minister for Foreign Trade regarding avenues to give further impetus to growing India-France economic partnership. Minister Goyal also met with the Executive Vice President of the European Commission, Valdis Dombrovskis, and discussed progress of India-EU free trade agreement negotiations. In a groundbreaking international development, the G7 countries and the European Union will establish a voluntary code of conduct to govern advanced artificial intelligence systems today at Brussels. This ambitious 11-point code aims to enhance global AI governance standards, prioritizing safety and trustworthiness. It emphasizes risk mitigation, incident handling, transparent reporting, and robust security measures. The EU leads in regulation with the AI Act, while Japan, the US, and Southeast Asian countries pursue to a more hands-off approach to spur economic growth. The code fills the regulatory gap, promoting responsible AI governance. The 76th session of the WHO Regional Committee for Southeast Asia begins today. India's Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia will attend the meeting. Four-day meeting will focus on accelerating prevention and control of cardiovascular diseases, ending neglected tropical diseases, and regional health security are among the key issues to be discussed. A ministerial roundtable will also be held on strengthening primary health care as a key element towards achieving universal health coverage. Also, countries will be felicitated for public health achievements, many of them triggered by the focused approach towards the regional flagship priorities. At least 10 people were killed and about 25 injured in a collision between two passenger trains in India's Andhra Pradesh. Indian Prime Minister on Sunday condoled the loss of lives in the train accident and announced an ex gratia of rupees 2 lakh from Prime Minister's National Relief Fund for the next of kin of each deceased and 50,000 for the injured in Andhra Pradesh train accident. While Union Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnav said that all injured people have been shifted to different hospitals for treatment and announced a compensation of 10 lakh rupees for families of dead. According to the officials, it was a rear-end collision between the Visakhapatnam Palasa passenger train and the Visakhapatnam Ragada passenger train. A series blast at a prayer meeting in the southern Indian state of Kerala's Kalamassery killed at least 2 people and left several injured. In response to the tragedy, Kerala's Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan expressed his condolences and called the incident very unfortunate. He also declared the formation of a special 20-member team to conduct a thorough investigation. The special investigative team will be led by Additional Director General of Police, Law and Order, comprising 20 members with expertise in various areas. The team is tasked with unraveling the circumstances surrounding the blast and ensuring justice is served. According to the officials, a man has surrendered before police claiming to be responsible for blasts. Let's now take a look at other stories making news today. India and Kazakhstan's joint military exercise Kazin begins today. The Indian Army and Indian Air Force contingent comprising 120 personnel will take part in the 7th edition of joint military exercise. The 13-day-long exercise will be conducted at Kazakhstan. The Indian President's House, Rashtrapati Bhavan's North and South Block are light up in red as part of the Go Red campaign for dyslexia awareness. Along with that, the Indian Parliament and India Gate were also lit in red. The move has been made in honor of International Dyslexia Awareness Month celebrated in October. Thousands of athletes ran in Run for Unity Marathon in New Delhi on Sunday. The marathon was organized by the government to mark the birth anniversary of one of the founding fathers of India, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Participants ran in different categories under a blanket of haze and dust. Large number of devotees attended the week-long International Kulu Festival in India's Himachal Pradesh. The festival is being celebrated with great joy as Indians celebrated the auspicious festival of Dussehra. Ahead of the Indian auspicious festival of Diwali, the Mayor of London organized the annual Diwali celebration at Trafalgar Square. The free public event had a large number of audience witnessing Indian traditional dances, music activities and food from various parts of India that capture the festival spirit. And India defeated England by 100 runs in the ICC Cricket World Cup in Lucknow to register their 6th consecutive match. Indian pacers Jasprit Bumrah and Mohammad Shami wreaked havoc to dismiss England for 129 runs. Earlier, England restricted India to 229 for 9 from 50 overs after electing to field first. Rohit Sharma led the charge from the front with 87 runs. Surya Kumar Yadav made 49 while KL Rahul made 39 runs. With this win, India moved to the top of the league table undefeated in the tournament so far. For England, this is their 4th consecutive loss and 5th overall. It seems that the defending champions' campaign is all but over now. While Rohit Sharma in his 100th international match as captain etched a memorable moment by completing 1,000 runs in ODIs in a current year. The Indian skipper achieved the milestone during his world match against England. More importantly, Rohit is the only skipper to have scored 1,000 ODI runs in 2023 and third batter overall to attain the feat after compatriot Shubman Gill and Pathum Nissanka. Rohit also went on to complete 18,000 runs in international cricket. Fifth Indian batter to do so after Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli, Rahul Dravid and Sourav Ganguly. Rohit has been in outstanding form in the World Cup as he also became the first Indian to hit 50 sixes in a calendar year in ODIs. Meanwhile, Game 30 of the ongoing ODI World Cup 2023 will feature a clash between Afghanistan and Sri Lanka today. Both sides will be coming to the clash on the back of brilliant wins in their previous games. Sri Lanka took on defending champion England in their previous game. Both sides took on each other in Game 25 of the tournament, and Sri Lanka registered a win by 8 wickets. On the other hand, Afghanistan faced off against Pakistan in their previous game, where they registered an 8-wicket win. Well, let's look at the points table now. India is at the top with 6 wins. And also, Manchester City registered a dominant Derby Day victory at neighbours Manchester United on Sunday. The 3-0 win at Old Trafford took the defending champions up to third, 2 points behind Premier League leaders Tottenham. And Erling Haaland stuck twice and Phil Foden added another. City had lost their last 2 on the road in the Premier League, but had too much for a United side who, despite a recent run of narrow wins and a spate of injuries, have issues to address across the pitch. If it wasn't for Andre Onana, who made a series of fine stops, the scoreline could easily have been heavier. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.